together to better serve the needs of the growing refugee population in central Iowa. And then, so this has been, language that's been defined by our network over the years. And it's, we provide, so then the second point there, we provide targeted assistance in the areas of community justice, economic mobility, education, health, transportation, interpretation, translation, and legal, and then as well as advocacy at the federal, state, and local levels. Just a couple of definitions I think that could be helpful. So community justice, that really came about as a way to be a better liaison between law enforcement and then the community leaders. So we have a lot of communities that are not as experienced in terms of having grown up and knowing how to interact with the police officer if they're pulled over, or court proceedings, and if you get a speeding ticket, how to navigate that. We also have communities that have fear of law enforcement, who come from communities and experiences where people that are armed, that are part of the government, can be something that's scary. So just a better liaison. Economic mobility. So that actually was a combination of our previous housing and employment work groups. There's just so much overlap when we talk about moving beyond just, initial survival to being able to thrive and be fully, participatory citizens. So we combine those two groups to talk about real long-term sustainable development, and it added an financial education or financial literacy piece into that. Education, health, transportation, all of those are kind of I think self-explanatory. Interpretation, translation, same. And I'll talk a little bit more about work groups as we move on, and I'll talk more about just kind of what our involvement or what our role is in each of these specific areas, but just so you kind of understand some of the history and what some of these terms just may encompass. So our defined vision, hold on really quick. Oh, thanks, Mock. I'm looking at the chat too. Our defined vision that we had kind of decided on as a network is to assure a welcoming community for refugees in which they have an equal opportunity to achieve growth and prosperity and to fully participate in civic and cultural life. And our mission is to increase awareness of and access to services, resources, programs so that refugees receive the maximum benefit as they resettle and become full participatory citizens in central Iowa. And something that I think that whenever I talk to people about what RACI does, it's always kind of hard to start, because with RACI, we're not a direct service provider. So we're not offering classes in any of these particular areas. We're really just helping to connect. We're helping to be kind of like that resource navigation piece in terms of that awareness and sharing services and programs. Okay, sorry. I got to get my windows all right. Okay, so the infrastructure of RACI. And so I think something that might, again, this is not to assume that this is what's going to work in Iowa City or in any other community, but this is where we've come from, and this is what's worked well here in central Iowa. So we have three kind of major components of RACI. So our entire network is 900 plus members. That's not, when we consider the fact that central Iowa has hundreds of thousands of people, it's not massive. But people that work in refugee and immigrant services, I feel like we might be a smaller network, but we're mighty. It's made up of a lot of people who care a lot about our community and who do this work not for the fame and they're not rolling in a whole bunch of income. But so again, it might be a small network, but it's a network that can move mountains. Our executive committee, or what's changed to become our steering committee. So that's overseen by 13. We have 13 board members, and then me, so that makes 14. Although, I'll be, the RACI coordinator or director is kind of separate to that, but we meet together once a month. And we have representation from the 4 resettlement agencies that offer direct resettlement services in central Iowa. So that's IRC. So Sarah Turlow actually became our new chair of our steering committee, actually. Also LSI, Lutheran Services in Iowa, and Catholic Charities, and then USCRI, which is the United States Committee for Refugees and Immigrants. Not a federal department. It is a nonprofit, although it seems very confusing because it has that US acronym. We also have representation from the state. So we have someone from the Bureau of Refugee Services, the county, which is technically us now, and MOC, who oversees Global Neighbors, who RACI is actually kind of under or part of, and then the city of Des Moines as well. And then we have 6 elected positions of people that come from refugee and immigrant communities. So we have a representative actually from NISA that's part of it. We have a representative from Burmese community organizations, Afghan community organizations. We want as much voice and input coming from, these communities as possible. That's a really important part of it. And then our work groups, I talked a little bit about this before, in terms of what these terms mean or what they just kind of encompass. But each of these work groups operates pretty different. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. So our advocacy work group helps to organize the Refugee Day on the Hill, which was just past Thursday, and that's open to the entire state. So as you guys, as your group forms, if you're wanting to participate in that more, or be present for that more. Joan came down last Thursday, which was great to see her. Give me just but we would be absolutely happy, and you'd be more than welcome to be part of that. But they also that is chaired by Tom Chapman from the Iowa Catholic Conference and Tara Nepal from IRC. Community justice. So this group had started to meet right before COVID and does not meet regularly currently, but had been chaired by a Des Moines Police Department sergeant, and then somebody from the Des Moines Civil Human Rights Commission. And basically that group had really defined what they saw as the current need of identifying resources or workshops that already exist in our community, and then the community leaders that we could connect those to. So not creating things from scratch again. And that group does not meet regularly just to meet. It really just kind of maintains this list of resources and how to respond to and connect things as needed. Economic mobility, education, and health. These groups do meet every other month. And so they'll provide information, they'll have, speakers to provide information on different topics. We'll talk about current issues, current gaps. And then they can have like side projects if they're wanting to work on. We've had hiring fairs. We've had a response to a couple of the different housing emergencies in central Iowa as needed. Our education work group really helped to connect communities to this, continuing education during COVID. That group really responded like fire after fire. They were really important and integral in keeping communities connected to education as things were virtual. They've also done some parent education videos in different languages to talk about the importance of attendance and other things. Our health work group has also done some like health navigation cards that we had printed that new arrivals could use to store like all of their health information. We've also done a community needs assessment on mental health in particular within a couple of different communities that had successful outcomes beyond our wildest dreams. I mean, it was incredible. And has also done some different like mental health first aid, emergency, vicarious trauma, I mean, different trainings to staff and community members alike in the past as well. Interpretation translation, that group is reforming again, and had paused at the onset of COVID. Our legal work group does not meet. They are too busy keeping people safe and well. So they really get together as needed. So sorry. And so like when we had our local opt-in executive order out of the Trump administration, our legal network and the RACI network got together and we had the documents signed we needed signed within a month, which was great. We've had a legal emergency that had come up within the Burmese community that some community members were receiving letters from USCIS and we're getting some like notice to appear. And so our legal group got together very quickly, informed people not to appear, and actually resolved that without the community members each individually needing to respond, which was fantastic and very important. They also have responded to a lot of other different kind of emergency community needs in the past as well. And our transportation work group, I would say, United Way of Central Iowa and our Metropolitan Planning Organization, our MPO, have a meeting that's currently already happening. So instead of having our historical group just meet to meet, we kind of teamed up with that group. And so we have like the same information, the same report out happening from that group, but without having to recreate like a whole separate meeting series, which has been really helpful, I think, and a much better use of people's time. Okay, so, oh, went too far. Give me just one. So just a really quick history. We were first formed in 2013 when a group of community partners saw that there were a lot of people arriving, a lot of different people doing different things, but not everybody was communicating. And knowing that in the world of nonprofit work, I mean, the more that we're working together, the more people are going to be served. So we had a community capacity build grant coming from the Community Foundation and really took part of a very large scale planning session. And then RACI really, like as we know it today, was formed from that starting in 2014. So just some kind of major accomplishments. We help organize the annual World Refugee Day celebration, and we saw well over 2,000 people last June. And it's a day-long event that's put on by and for the community. We have over 20 cultural performances. We buy food from 20 locally owned refugee immigrant owned restaurants and give out samples for free. We have a very and highly anticipated, but sometimes contentious soccer tournament that the staff at Catholic Charities plan that I don't, and they're great at it and they did a really great job. But there's $1,000 prize for first place, like on the line. So yeah, there's a lot of people that participate in that, and it's really fun. And then just have booths for community partners to be able to come and share resources. It's also a great way for ECBOs to have booths. A lot of them are there. They're part of the planning committee and are helping to put on different cultural performances anyway. But for them to be able to share information about their services or connect to community partners. We also help plan the Iowa Refugee Summit, which is actually something that's statewide, and I know many of you have attended. It was great to meet a lot of people. For the first time, I know coming out of COVID, we did offer information and resources virtually during COVID, and those videos are on our website. But it was really great to see people in person again. And it's grown to over 300 people that attend. It's a one-day conference. Again, nonprofit people typically don't have a lot of extra time. So we try to condense it into one day. There were 5 CEUs, which is beneficial to, I know people that, like the maximum amount of value out of their time. We also offered a mental health focused or empowerment focused kind of training virtually a couple Saturdays prior with Dr. Alyssa Clayton. And Mock had just put in there the World Cup, and then the World Refugee Day comes third. And we had the world's largest trophy ever made, by the way. We had kids walking by this thing, which was taller than me, like that's like whispering to each other, that's the World Cup. That's the actual World Cup. It was so cute. But so the summit is, we have a ton of expertise, and we have a lot of people who are incredibly passionate and dedicated and brilliant in the work that they do. And the purpose of this summit is to be able to provide anybody that works with refugee communities an opportunity to learn how to do that better. So we have experts from health, mental health, we have employers, we have people that can talk about navigating education, post-secondary options. It's really just everything. And we'll have experts from all around the state and even country that come in to provide information to. So if you were, again, police departments, if you work for the schools, colleges, if you are an employer, DHS, HHS, any case management, family youth services, anybody that connects with refugee families, it's a great way to come and learn that there's a lot of people that are experts in a lot of different subject matter, specific to new Iowans, and that you don't have to start out at zero and start doing everything by yourself and recreating stuff from scratch. That there's so much that's already there and built, and we want to share that out. And then Day on the Hill I talked about. So this past Thursday, our purpose is just to organize. So we help organize the event and make sure anybody that wants to be there is there. We really try to encourage our ECBO leaders, faith leaders, community leaders from refugee communities to be there as well, and offer a training on civics engagement that's done by Iowa Migrant Movement for Justice. This year, right after the training, we were presented to the Iowa Senate, which was great. They gave us a standing ovation, which for a lot of our community leaders who may be new to this, we did have new ECBOs there this year. So for them to see that they're not just, able to walk into the building, but that they're acknowledged, and that their work and their effort and, their passion and dedication is acknowledged by, our actual entire Senate, that, it's very empowering. And then the rest of the day, people are welcome to engage with elected officials as they want. So like Catherine McCauley, Senator from Cedar Rapids, was able to engage with their elected officials, Iowa City, Waterloo, Marshalltown, Sioux City, and then hopefully next year, Davenport, Council Bluffs as well. But we have people that come in from all over the state, and it's a really great day. It's just a great day to be able to be with people that you may not get to talk to regularly, that are doing this work, in other parts of the state as well. Resource sharing. So this is one of our areas of expertise. I was saying earlier that lobbying and knowing how the legislative process is not my highest skill set or knowledge base, but we do, I think, a really great job in resource sharing, and we really had to during COVID. We had to figure out how to navigate getting emergency information out to keep people safe and healthy and alive during COVID very, very quickly. We were already really good at it, but our network, I think, got great at it, considering the resources that we have available during the pandemic. So we have a weekly newsletter that goes out every Thursday morning. Even before Axios was in Des Moines, we had it formatted where it was like, this is happening this Saturday. Here's a link for more information. So it's something that you could scroll through and browse in about 10 minutes, with ongoing resources that we think are very important, kind of at the bottom if you wanted more. But So current community events or things that are happening that have a date, associated with them or deadline, funding opportunities, job opportunities, training opportunities, and then those ongoing resources. Our website also is a really great resource. We get over 1,000 visits every week. But that has a refugee immigrant specific resource directory that we created. My first meeting in 2014, I walked into the summit that year and talked to the then RACI coordinator and was like, hey, I did direct case management for refugee and immigrant young adults in specific. And so I walked in and my first question is, where's the resource directory? Because I've got a client that needed ELL help in West Des Moines, a client that needed to explore post-secondary options, 3 clients that needed criminal legal assistance, and then, a million other things. And there wasn't one. So that was one of the first things that we did when I came into this position. We also post, resources from our work groups there. We have links. The very first content block that when you see the website is, you want to learn more, here's information. And if you want to get involved, we have the links to all of the different resettlement agencies. When people call and they have furniture to donate, I get those calls most weeks, many times. Or if they have, if they're wanting to donate money, if they're wanting to volunteer to get involved, we always try to connect that to resettlement agencies. Or if there are other things or ways people are wanting to volunteer or donate to the ECBOs as well. And then social media. So again, a lot of our communities communicate a lot through Facebook. We have multiple ECBOs that don't have websites, and have emails that sometimes don't get responded to, but they do have Facebooks, and their Facebook messages get responded to sometimes quicker than other forms of communication. So we have Facebook. We do have Instagram. Social media is not my strength. I have a couple people on our, that are part of our network that really like to help out with events, when it comes to social media, but, we do, I think, get stuff out pretty quickly. So like the Iowa Chin community had their Chin National Day this past Saturday. We were sharing that out. One Iowa had an African Business Summit that we were sharing out this past Saturday. And this past Saturday was the Tidom Lunar New Year celebration, which was also huge. The Chin National Day and the Tidom Lunar Celebration, I mean, both of those events easily had, well over 1,000 people there. It was a busy day. Okay, so then the individual family supports and navigation. I mean, I get emails and phone calls every day asking for help navigating resources, just helping to connect that. And I've talked a little bit about some of the webinars we've offered, hiring fairs, COVID navigation. Another really big thing that we've tried to do over the past few years is really prioritizing ECBO capacity building. And one of the big reasons why RACI doesn't become a direct service provider and why we're not seeking more funding, why we're not trying to have our, why we're not out applying for grants is, when there are funding opportunities like grants and other state or federal, opportunities for funding, we're putting that out to the ECBOs. Like we want to see ethnic communities being able to, serve their own communities, advocate on behalf of themselves, and not always have to have a liaison to do those things. So, yeah, so RACI moved under Polk County July 1st this past year, and I can talk a little bit more about that in a second, but sometimes people will ask, oh, like you're a nonprofit, or why aren't you a nonprofit? And really, I mean, the minute we're competing for funds with ECBOs or direct service organizations that are already doing this work, that kind of goes against what our priority is. Okay, so COVID-19, just a couple of things. We don't need to read all of this, but one thing that I think is important to note is when it came to COVID-19 and distributing, we had $100,000 from the Community Foundation that went to 19 ECBOs, getting PPP out, again, emergency information. When the vaccine came out, we had a train the trainer program that we developed with Polk County Health Department. you know, all of these things, there really wasn't great emergency management plans for communities that aren't English or Spanish speaking. And to some extent, there still really aren't. Like um, you know, we have a system in place where we can disseminate information out to the, you know, to the necessary community leaders. And I do hope, especially with the development of the Global Neighbors program that Mock had mentioned earlier, that this becomes more concise and efficient moving forward. But right before COVID, we had an emergency management training activity, and my first question was, you know, we can't, people that don't speak English or Spanish, we can't call 911. They can't call 211. And, you know, during COVID, everyone was told, don't call your doctor's office, which they can't do anyway. Um, you know, call 211. And those individuals that don't speak English or Spanish, they can't get through the automated prompts to get to somebody on the phone to request interpretation. So, you know, in terms of emergency information, like if we have people during a pandemic or even not, like if someone's having a heart attack and they're trying to call 911, if someone is facing, you know, homelessness and they need emergency, you know, assistance, these resources that do exist aren't accessible to everybody. So just something that I think that we're very, very much still aware of and committed to helping to resolve and mitigate moving forward. Okay, I don't need to probably go over this with you guys. This is just kind of a brief synopsis of how resettlement works. Just in case you are unfamiliar, I can kind of give you the 2 minute rundown. But so the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, UNHCR, there's a quiz on acronyms at the end of this presentation. They're the ones that process all of the internationally displaced people around the entire planet. There's a lot of organizations that serve internationally displaced persons, but UNHCR is the only one that actually processes each individual and places them in refugee camps or places them into resettlement, etc. So again, you see numbers, I think a lot. There's over 100 million people currently displaced. Only 20, I think maybe 6. This might be out of date. 26 million are considered refugees, meaning that they're never going to be able to return home and that they're going to be resettled overseas somewhere else. So we have an the United States USA ORR is the Office of Refugee Resettlement. They're like the federal entity that works with 9 different voluntary agencies who resettle people across the United States. And then in Des Moines, there's 4 agencies: Catholic Charities, USCRI, LSI, and IRC. So to you, that might be very relevant to you all. IRC, as Sarah mentioned, just opened an office in Iowa City, which is exciting and great. It makes a whole bunch of sense because Iowa City is such an amazing community. And then Catherine McCauley Center also resettles in Cedar Rapids. And then east of you, Davenport has an office now from World Relief as well. And then there's also resettlement again that takes place Sioux City, Marshalltown, Waterloo, and then we get overflow and Council Bluffs as well. So when they initially arrive into Iowa, they have services provided from the resettlement agencies for the first few months, and then as they get resettled, a lot of the needs come from community organizations, ECBOs, and again, everybody really working together. Okay. Oh yeah, here we go. That's what this goes into. So really, I think something that's important to know: when people arrive, the money that it took to get them here, their plane tickets, they have to pay that back. So they arrive in debt and then have to reach financial self-sufficiency in like miraculous record time. The resettlement agencies, they typically get this information sent well in advance and have a home ready. And the resettlement staff, like I can't say enough about resettlement staff. They pick people up from the airport, help them navigate transportation, education, employment, healthcare. I mean, I can barely navigate my own healthcare. And I'm from here. I've been doing this for years and years and years and speak English fluently. Dental, yeah, ELL, and it's a lot. I've lived somewhere overseas where I didn't speak the language, and then I had to be self-sufficient actually in 3 months, and so having that experience is I always think about that whenever I am explaining this, because it's a very complex and it can be a very an intimidating thing to do. Okay, resettlement long term. So I kind of mentioned this. So, Office of Refugee Resettlement offers some programming, out of like the office, like the Bureau of Refugee Services, and then some programs in other agencies. So like there's and Ma could probably speak much better to this than I could, but there's like elder programming, there's programming to help people navigate SSI or SSDI disability, some mental health supports, like PM Plus, I think kind of comes from some of that funding stream. There's a lot of different programs that really just to help identify some of these longer term needs and just really helping to fill those or better connect those. Resettlement agencies, RAs, sorry, more acronyms, man. Um, also help to fill those longer term needs. The ECBOs, the faith leaders, the community leaders. I think again, pointing out that community self-advocacy is always our point, our priority. That trying to build that agency within community leaders and the communities themselves instead of having, any outside organizations coming in and telling them how to do what to do, or that kind of savior based models. Increasing the presence of refugee and immigrant leaders in places of planning and places of leadership is very important. And then decreasing power abuses. We always mention this just because in the past, we've seen spaces where there have been like specific community members that have been like tokenized from different communities that have been placed in like all of the leadership places, and they're like seen as the representative of that community, and that can be dangerous. So just making sure that everybody, all leaders, all community leaders, all faith leaders, all feel like they, that they don't have to go through just one person, that they can also be part of it. Just to mention Afghanistan and Ukraine, we helped, so during that crisis, we helped, we opened up like a centralized warehouse that each of the 4 resettlement agencies could utilize. We had over 1,000 people arrive in the state of Iowa after the fall of Kabul in 2021, and just kind of noting that it wasn't regular refugee resettlement. And during that humanitarian crisis, we offered that warehouse, so that instead of each of these resettlement agencies having to come up with their own warehouse space, we got space donated. So like that was thousands of dollars that they didn't have to worry about, or like volunteer staff to manage that, to process donations. That's one thing they didn't have to worry about. And then Polk County actually also donated. We ended up with, I think, 250 beds. Maybe more. I should actually know that number because I unloaded all of them and then loaded them back, or helped to load them back up with resettlement staff. But that was easily like it was like close to $100,000. I mean, just with all the donations, furniture, I mean, the community really stepped up. We had sections for plates and pots and pans and winter boots and winter coats, and the like craziest collection of living room furniture that you've ever seen in one place together. Beds and rugs and linens and sheets and comforters and dining room tables and chairs. I mean, so all of this, we just, wherever we could help, alleviate our resettlement staff. They were, all working easily 60, 70 hours. It was a lot of weight to carry on their shoulders after coming out of, a place where they were operating at 100% of their own capacity, just with COVID and the previous administration lowering the number of people resettling. So yeah, it was really important that the community came together. And let's see here. Yeah. So then there's more information about our resources and just, I did want to put out there that World Refugee Day. So that's a internationally recognized date that the UNHCR established. It's June 20th is the actual date that's recognized. Our celebration will be June 22nd. So if you're wanting to collaborate on ideas in Iowa City, ways that we could, highlight the work you're doing or the communities that you're serving in Iowa City, we would love to work together, share ideas again that have worked here. There's small celebrations across the country. There's huge celebrations across the country. And ours, I think is, I see I'm connected to the groups in St. Louis and Chicago and a lot of these other cities. St. Louis, theirs is 3 days long and it sees 10,000 people. But we had over 2,000 attendees last year and hope to have even more this year. We're looking forward to it. I also always serve the Switchboard. Switchboard is a technical assistance provider, and they have a ton of resources that are free: webinars, blog posts. They currently had a training. Recently had a training, like a certified, like a certificate program for people as well. It's just another great resource. But that's it. Does anyone have any questions?
John, go ahead. Can you?
Oh, I was just gonna say, wow.
Yeah. Same here.
I'm speechless. I mean, you in 10 years you have accomplished so much. It's an inspiration. Honestly, it's just amazing. So thank you. That's a lot.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have two questions too.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, hey Stephanie, I think that's a great presentation, and it's, I mean, yeah, it kind of feels great to hear and see what you guys have done. I just had like some specific question based on things that you have talked about. So the program, such as World Cup, Champions League, things like that. I remember at that time I was a coach, and then we had to go to Des Moines to play for like a Champions League or something. I'm assuming it's the same kind of thing. Where do you guys get the funding? Is it like something that, because I remember there was like a participant, they had to pay some amount of money or something. And was it like something that you guys get the funding from the participant, or it was more like like the state or the city, or you guys provided those kind of the funding to run that specific soccer event?
Our soccer event for World Refugee Day, there's usually 14, 16, 18 teams, and they all pay $100. And then, so like last year, we had 16 teams. First place took 1,000 of that back. And then second place won 600. And they usually donate it to an ECBO of their choice. So the soccer tournament doesn't bring in any funding.
Okay.
And we actually have a community, like we have sponsors. Last year, a local law firm, they paid for water bottles. So each of the soccer players got water bottles, and then Des Moines Waterworks has like a free refill station. So, we really rely on community support to help with any of the additional outside costs. And then I should also say, so sorry, everybody. We had anybody that was in need of cleats or any materials or supplies to play in the tournament, we paid for. So I think there were like 30 pairs of cleats in total that we ended up paying for, shin guards, some socks. We purchased the ref supplies. They are volunteer refs. And so, we have to fundraise and get different, we seek, different sponsorships or community support. Dick's Sporting Goods in Des Moines has been really good to us over the years too, and giving us like discounts wherever possible. So it's a lot of work up front, but it's a lot of fun that it's well worth it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, second question and last one. I know maybe other people had something to say too. On the community justice. So I think you've talked about the liaison between the police and the community, things like that. Is it of course, maybe like there is one of the county or one of the city or the you know, like the PD, they have their own person, like a sergeant or something that works. Does the police work directly with RACI, or like you guys trying to like, you know, go by ECB, or it's like, okay, well, you know, let's say there is like a community or people who like, let's say African communities, for instance, you were getting somebody from their side where like, you know, they're gonna be like, not really like an outgoing meeting, like you said, but kind of like meet up sometimes, like discuss things. Does it really how it works, or because I mean, I'm kind of like want to hear more about how it's really done.
Yeah, so we have the like community liaisons from each of the police departments, as well as the district attorney's office from each county, because we work a lot with Polk, Dallas, and Warren County. And then so like Des Moines and all the suburbs, everybody tends to have like a community officer that can attend. So all of those people were attending together, and so we were all kind of collectively on the same page. That just initially having everyone together was fantastic. And then we got a lot of input and very specific feedback from community leaders based off of, so like, we had some different police officers offering direct workshops, like interacting with police 101, what to do if you're pulled over, navigating like the Department of Justice. We had you know, different trainings for you know, what to do, like court involvement, the impact court involvement can have, and then, you know, resources for like diversion or you know, other programs that help like young adults navigating other things, exploring other things, activities after school. But on the same side, we also had trainings about cultural competency and DEI and a lot of these other trainings that were available for the police department or for the district attorney offices themselves, or like trauma informed care, very important. So yeah, we developed that list, and then as communities based on their own requests, like we worked with NISA on a very specific health issue, and working with, you know, police departments. There's 3 culturally specific domestic violence serving agencies across the state. I'm sure you're all aware, or may be aware of NISA, Monsoon, and then Luna. So working with them on some things, but it really has depended on the community. I mean, we had one time last year, I had a phone call from the Sudanese community that you know, there was a community member that died during a police chase, and they needed to get the body released to meet their religious their religious customs. So just helping to connect their community leaders with the Des Moines Police Department chief of police, and you know, they were able to get that resolved right away. And it was, you know, the Des Moines Police Department worked really hard to make sure that they had what they needed, and even understanding you know, why they were doing what they were doing, and connecting the people that did the river rescue and explaining why, you know, they were taking the steps they were taking. It was great, you know, it was great to see the community and those involved in that particular matter, you know, being able to really, you know, to come together and better understand what was going on both sides. Yeah, so it depends on the community, like what they say that their needs are. Every community is different, every generation is different, every individual is different. So just hearing what the needs are, and how to best meet those with the resources that do exist. Because there's a lot of people that work in law enforcement too that are very dedicated and very passionate about what they do, and do, like Sergeant Lore here in Des Moines does an amazing job of that, you know, police 101. He'll go out, you know, with interpretation to the different community organizations and make sure people understand how to interact with police. That was a really long response that I'm sure could have been summarized much shorter. Sorry, Joshua.
No, you did great, so thank you.
Sure.
I think we have only
May I
3
just-
minutes. We have only 3 minutes to go now, and if anyone has any questions, I think Jennifer, did you have anything to share from the last discussion we had about resources. I want to give you time to share that, and then, you know, I think because what we have had today, we have so much to digest, so much to think about, and so much to actually go through the documents and probably come out with what we want. But I think we have a very good. So I want to give this time to Jennifer so that we don't so that we know the progress that is happening as far as resources are concerned.
Thanks, Sunday. Yeah,
Anytime.
I just a really brief update. My student has almost completely finished we're using Qualtrics, the survey that we're going to send out. So I'm hoping that we're going to be able to meet today or not today, this week, to review that. And then as soon as that's ready to go out, I'm going to reach out to Sunday and Joan and get the email distribution list. And we'll get that sent out to kind of everybody who's affiliated with Refugee Alliance to try and compile all their information. And then we'll be able to download that and put it into hopefully a searchable format that we could post online. We could have it hosted in several different places if we want. So we're not moving quite as quickly as I had hoped, but we're not falling completely behind. So I'm pleased with his progress.
And for those of you who maybe weren't at the previous meeting, we're one of the baby steps that we're making as we aspire to be like RACI is a resource directory, and Jennifer and her public health students have volunteered to put that together, which I think is a great start. So anyway, be looking for that link so you can describe what services you have to offer for immigrants and refugees. And thanks again for putting that together, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Is there any pressing, compelling question for Stephanie? I don't want to. One of the things I never heard you mention is housing in your presentation, Stephanie. Is that part of one of your groups, or is housing? I don't want to say it's not considered an issue in Polk County.
Yeah, housing is a crisis all across the country, that's for sure. And housing and employment were the two groups that combined forces to become the economic mobility work group.
Okay.
And so, we have workforce housing is a priority of one of the local advocacy agencies again. Yeah, housing is definitely something that everyone struggles with.
Well, it's 10:01. Thank you so much, Stephanie. John, did you have anything to say? Or
No, just thank you.
Yeah.
That was a lot of information presented very efficiently and gives us a whole lot to think about and work on. And can you just come work for us? Because it's amazing. You have a very big job. So thank you for sharing your expertise here. And I think our next step is just kind of unpack some of this and decide what is our best starting place.
Yeah.
You know, one thing I would just share really quick, the paid staff position and funding, you know, when we first started RACI, the coordinator was half RACI, half ISU extension, and it was just part-time. And when I came into this position in 2018, I was just 20 hours a week, and we were funded. We'd pieced it together, county and city and state and resettlement agencies, and actually Oak Ridge Neighborhood Services housed my office for free, and they paid into RACI $2,500 a year. So as you know, as the work grew, and during COVID in particular, it was just so obvious that to do it as well as we could, it really was a full-time position, and falling under the county with support from the state as well is really kind of where it belonged. And yeah, really, I think helped to solidify the longer term sustainability of it. But everyone together, really helped ensure that the work could continue. Yeah, resettlement agency participation. Mock mentioned making sure everyone's involved. We just, yeah, it's stressing, that it's as community led as possible. We, every decision we make, every board election, financials, we present to our quarterly meetings. It's available to the entire network. And making sure everyone has an opportunity to provide feedback is important.
Wonderful. Okay, I think what we'll do is the planning committee is going to sit down, take a look at this presentation, and contact Stephanie and Mark and all the people who are involved in Des Moines. And at the next meeting, hopefully we should be able to present some kind of a proposal. I'm speaking on behalf of the planning committee now. We'll present some kind of a proposal that where we think our next steps are going to be, and get the input of members of this alliance. But in the absence of any questions, I want to sincerely appreciate all of you who have turned out this morning, and to say thank you so much, Stephanie, for coming on. And please continue with the good work, and we hope to see everyone again next month.